Good morning and good afternoon to every one of you joining us today. Welcome to today's live webinar on retail's hottest topic, how to take full advantage of the omni-channel reality and develop the right merchandising and business strategies to further your company's growth. In an effort to add to the ongoing discussion around this topic of omni-channel, we will be highlighting the planning aspect today, and I'm very excited to have two industry veterans with me here today to share their insights. We would like today's session to be highly interactive, so please join the conversation during the Q&A session after our two speakers conclude their prepared remarks. Please feel free to use the chat window and type your questions to us at any time during the presentation. Just in case you have to leave early, a recorded version of today's live event will be available to all of you who have registered. We promise to have you back at work within 1 hour, so let's get started. First, we'll hear from Graham Polliner from Salmon, where he serves as Advanced Analytics Manager within their consumer goods and retail practice. Graham works with the world's leading retailers to enhance their merchandising and analytics capabilities. Graham, very happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Jipe, and thanks for the introduction. Just wanted to thank you and Ben for the opportunity to co-present on omnichannel planning during the WebEx today. Clearly, omnichannel has received a great deal of attention recently, and for good reason. Omnichannel customers are several times more valuable than single-channel customers. Customer expectations of the retail experience are changing, and as a result, omnichannel is at or near the top of almost every retail executive's list of strategic initiatives. In this context, we're defining omnichannel as both the seamless integration of the customer experience across channels and the operational capabilities required to implement an omnichannel strategy. During this presentation, we'll focus on one of those operational components, omnichannel planning. While the potential benefits of omnichannel are attractive, there are frequently a number of obstacles retailers need to overcome to meet consumer expectations, such as channel or functional silos, isolated views of the customer and their expectation by channel, a lack of inventory visibility across channels, an inability to share plans, and the complexity required to fulfill the inventory. As a result of all this, while the vision is generally clear on what the omnichannel ought to be, the path to execution frequently isn't. So how can retailers overcome these obstacles? Implementing an omnichannel strategy typically requires a retailer to change the way they operate by implementing updated demand planning and forecasting processes with additional points of reconciliation, redefine roles of the traditional merchant team to incentivize cross-channel collaboration, integrated data and functional systems to support the process. So we'll talk about each one of these points in a little bit more detail. Structured demand planning incorporates increasing levels of detail as we move from concept to planning to execution, starting with how the products will support the strategic direction, to how much of each product to purchase, and eventually how much to allocate to each point of distribution. Along the way, there are a series of top-down, bottom-up reconciliation points at each stage of the planning process. So omnichannel adds layers of complexity to the planning process, which require enhanced forecasting and demand planning requirements to support the increased demand variability, additional points of reconciliation between the global planning process and the channel or region planning process, increased capabilities to share and collaborate on plans, shared inventory purchasing and allocation decisions, and improved communication between functional areas. While it's important to establish an integrative view of the inventory, it's also important not to lose the fine or technical customer knowledge at the channel level. One of the aspects retailers are considering now is how best to align functional groups to support the omnichannel process. At the very least, omnichannel retail requires increased communication between traditional functional areas and channels to align on plans, and may require omnichannel specific metrics in order to incentivize the appropriate cross-channel collaboration. An alternative approach is to redefine the traditional merchant planner team and create a pod geared towards omni-channel retailing. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The approach depends on each organization's goals, where they're coming from historically, the skill sets of the existing teams, the percent of business that comes from each channel, and the overlap of product and offering and consumer expectations for each channel. Finally, the process and organization must be supported by access to data throughout the organization, transparent analytics to drive insights, and systems integrated across functional areas to provide a single version of key metrics and the products. Ben's going to spend a lot more time talking about how technology solutions can support the assortment planning process, so we won't go into further detail here. In closing, we've identified several levers to successfully implement omni-channel planning, such as enhanced forecasting and demand planning capabilities to support integrated end-to-end planning, continuous cross-functional communication and reconciliation, shared accountability and omni-channel metrics to drive increased collaboration, and the appropriate data and system support in order to make sure that the process is effective and efficient. At this point, I'll turn it back over to G-Pay.
Thank you, Graham, for highlighting the key success factors for omnichannel planning. Next, we'll be hearing from Ben Lantini, Vice President of Planning Solutions at 7thonline. Ben has over 20 years of experience in retail, technology, and consulting at global companies such as Levi's, Arthur Andersen, and Blue Cherry. He will dive deeper into some of the points that Graham has highlighted. Ben, now over to you.
Thank you. Graham's analysis of the omnichannel landscape clearly points out the high-level changes an organization needs to make to keep up with their consumer. But the question that needs to be answered is, how do you support this omnichannel strategy? Omnichannel commerce has put the consumer in the driver's seat with the ability to shop anywhere, buy anytime, and receive products in the manner of their choosing. While this revolution has been a great convenience to consumers, it has left many companies scrambling to develop a seamless operation that not only delivers the consumer's expectations regardless of channel, but does so profitably. As Graham stated earlier, there are three components that need to be addressed before you can say that you even have an omnichannel strategy. Those components consist of aligning your business processes, evaluating your organization, and selecting the right technology partners. One of the key levers to success that Graham discussed was an integrated end-to-end planning process. Organizations, both wholesalers and retailers, have started to see the need to expand their planning process outside of the corporate environment. Where previously all planning decisions were made at the corporate level and then pushed down to the regions to execute, we are seeing a shift towards a more bottoms-up strategy. As seen in this slide, we envision the planning process needing to be integrated from strategic direction through top-down merchandise planning, culminating with line creation and bottoms-up assortment planning. The major shift we see is that this process is not just occurring at the corporate or global level, but simultaneously happening at the regional and channel level as well. Organizations are beginning to allow the regions to create their own top-down merchandise plans, which then will get rolled up and compared to the corporate merchandise plan. The thought process around this concept is that the regional planners are closer to their customer and will have a better understanding of what their customer is desiring from the brand. The regional planners also have a much better knowledge of the marketplace as it pertains to consumer trends. What may be a growing business in the United States may not be relevant in Australia and/or Japan. For vertical companies, incorporating input from the regional sales teams, as well as internal divisions such as brick-and-mortar stores, web, and marketing, are allowing the merchandise planning process to become customized to the consumer's preferences. Merchandise financial plans should no longer be referred to as top-down plans, but in reality are becoming consensus plans. The same principle can be used for line creation as well. Many global companies realize that a standard assortment for all regions will not satisfy today's consumer. Some brands have started to allow certain regions to have a percentage of their buy be customized to their specific needs. These companies allow these regions to design and manufacture the product directly, with the corporate office reviewing and approving the designs. Creating these regional assortments that complement the global or corporate assortment is just one way of connecting the brand to the consumer. Once the lines have been finalized, forecasting demand for each style, especially the global styles, becomes vital in order to optimize inventory productivity. Retailers historically have relied on POS data to evaluate the success of a style or category of business. But in this digital age, we see retailers working closer with their marketing departments to try and understand the shifting consumer preferences and begin to incorporate forward-thinking analysis to complement the historical results. Allowing regions and internal divisions to help determine category consumer demand, as well as potentially determining regional assortments specific to their customer, is where we see the future of planning within an organization that wishes to connect to their customer in today's world. An integrated channel approach to assortment planning that supports corporate-level merchandising and financial goals with a keen eye toward consumer demand is an absolute necessity in an omni-channel business model. The planning process must collaboratively address the needs of both physical and virtual channels to ensure the customer offer is consistent. A core assortment should be identified that transcends all channels, and it should target a brand's core customers. Planning in an omni-channel business model also requires an integrated supply chain that accounts for all demand regardless of the channel. Inventory should be pooled across channels with the forecast based on consolidated demand, in-stock inventory, and open inventory orders. This means enterprise-wide inventory visibility, including inventory in transit. Processes should be consolidated for all channels to support product sourcing, price negotiation, purchase order execution, order tracking, and inbound shipment planning to eliminate redundancy and reduce costs, particularly for the core assortment. Planners and merchandisers should also understand when and where demand in one channel is actually being fulfilled through another channel, and adjust assortments and merchandising accordingly. While planners still allocate assortments to a specific channel, a cross-channel inventory plan takes a centralized view of assortments for all channels and determines total inventory counts against all demand, and then manages the flow and receipt of inventory accordingly to meet seasonal cycles and trends. The impact of this shift on merchandising and planning is major, said Terry Donofrio, president of Retail Systems and Services. It will affect everything from setting merchandise strategy, defining assortment strategy, buying patterns, mix of merchandise, tailoring, fabrics, and inventory. But to execute this new type of business process, management must reevaluate the skill sets and organizational hierarchy of each of their planning departments. Already performing one of the most complex jobs in wholesale and retail, merchandisers and planners are now called on to take their jobs to a new level thanks to the addition of mobile and social selling channels. As Graham indicated earlier, organizations need to adjust to the changing consumer climate. Many companies still believe in a channel-specific organizational structure, but some companies are starting to realize that their current planning and merchandising structure is not appropriate for a successful omni-channel strategy. REI, for example, has both a product planning group that focuses on product and forecast sell-through, and a marketing planning group that focuses on consumer demand and preferences. Together, they create a joint merchandising plan. Whether the organization is a retailer or a manufacturer or distributor, their customers want one single thing: a consistent, compelling experience that crosses all channels, no matter if they buy in-store, online, or through social or mobile devices. To help build an agile, customer-centric brand, businesses must create the right organizational foundation. Thought leadership begins with hiring the right people. Do you have a commerce and content team dedicated to creating an authentic brand experience? Is that team set up for success within the organization? If an organization wishes to engage in a business process that supports regional and corporate planning and merchandising, they will need to build an infrastructure to support the process. The regional planning team will need to not only focus on sales, but start looking at inventory productivity, profit margins, and turn rates inclusive of all channels within their region. Management will need to determine if their current planning team has the ability to achieve this. From a corporate planning perspective, these planners will need to be more strategic, taking on the information from the regions and internal divisions and deriving an overall corporate brand strategy that meets the corporate annual operating budget. Again, management must assess if the current organization has the skill sets needed to achieve this. The same goes for the assortment planning process. Regions must be able to assess the consumer demands of their specific area of responsibility to recommend regional specific assortments. While these regional specific styles may make up a small percentage of the overall buy, the impact to the bottom line could be significant as it sends a message to the consumer: we are your brand because we understand what you want. Having systems that can support your omni-channel strategy is crucial. Incorporating a single, integrated, and seamless architecture will help you accomplish your goals more easily and with greater success across multiple channels. Companies need the technology power tools to gather, analyze, and interpret millions of data strands of consumer interaction from countless touchpoints, channels, and data sources. But once you have all of this data, how do you use it? How do you deliver a seamless omni-channel strategy incorporating multiple plans and forecasts? How do you convert those plans and forecasts into a single aggregated demand across all channels and regions? Enterprise legacy solutions are one of the biggest challenges to accomplishing this. Most were invented 15 years ago, and they were meant to just reside inside the company and are also very siloed. What companies need is a robust solution that allows people to get on and get off with tremendous flexibility, and a network approach that allows multiple divisions to be agile in their interactions. Companies must look for software solutions that can handle flexible planning structures, ever-changing product hierarchies, as well as multiple versions of the same plan that can be reconciled into a single corporate approved budget. The planning system must have the ability to separate and combine the channel-specific plans and purchases, forecasting the appropriate levels of merchandise reserve for each channel, while the allocation system must be able to easily access merchandise from one channel to fulfill demand from another channel. Plans must have the ability to be updated on demand with visibility to actual performance. Software systems must be able to allow users to compare multiple forecasts of the same product from all channels across the time horizon, in order to ensure that the right demand will be sent to the supply planning team. Access to these plans must be made available to all levels of the organization with easy-to-build, on-the-fly reporting capabilities. Can an organization find one software company that can execute all of the above requirements? Probably not. That is why it becomes imperative to evaluate and select software partners that have the vision and resources to grow and adapt to this ever-changing consumer landscape. A great deal of planning and strategy must go into a successful omni-channel operation. This new retail world can make or break the best of companies. As Graham stated earlier, waiting until you have all the pieces in place is too late. Investing in a platform-based technology that can optimize costs and profits across the entire global chain is essential for long-term success. Finding the right software partner or partners is key in executing this strategy. A successful omni-channel strategy should not only guarantee a company's survival, but also deliver a revolution in customers' expectations and experiences. Assortment planning and merchandising for the omni-channel customer is challenging, and getting it right means both merchandising and planning must stay synchronized with corporate financial goals and consumer demand. When done well, everyone wins. Consumers enjoy a more satisfying shopping experience by getting what they want, when and where they want it. Companies gain the ability to consolidate processes and optimize inventory, to decrease risks and carrying costs, and increase sales and customer loyalty. We here at 7th Online believe in the Omni-channel initiative and have incorporated these strategies into our retail, wholesale, and e-commerce modules. I wish to thank you for listening to myself and Graham today. I hope it has been informative.
Thank you, Ben and Graham, for sharing plenty of food for thought on this very important topic. Many of you have already have typed in questions, so let's move on to the Q&A portion of the event. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible from the audience, and we really appreciate your participation today.